Hey everyone, it's Redbox time. What movie would you like? You know what's funny about red boxes? People just put their band stickers on them anyway. So, like, in a weird way, that's the only way to advertise your band anymore. Through a red box. Welcome to this Q&A, everyone. Thank you for joining. I said I was going to do this at some point. It just kind of coincided perfectly with the relaunch of the merch. And we'll talk about it. So if you give me just a minute here, we can get started and you can ask me some questions. We'll talk about the merch. We'll talk about other music we like. And yeah, it'll be fun. This is actually another light in the Mario 64 sound font by Simoran, or Simoran, S-I-M-O-R-A-N. I'm always an enjoyer of Mario 64 remixes of songs, so it's pretty cool that people made some for our music. So it's just me today. You know, this wasn't going to be like some big thing. Really don't think I'll be live for like more than an hour. But I figured let's talk about some music. I guess we'll start with this. So for anyone that didn't really know this, our old merch company, Second City Prints, went bankrupt. And I talked about this a little bit on stream and in some other ways. And they went bankrupt in December, and it was a bad situation all around, and a lot of not great things happened. And a lot of people lost a lot of money. So what happened with Red Vox is our merch was just sitting in a warehouse in Chicago, and the company being bankrupt, they didn't they didn't tell anyone until last minute. So this was like really spur of the moment. Like, everyone was shocked, and a lot of bands were using them because their rates were so low for shipping, or for rather the artist would get a little bit more. And unfortunately, yeah, that money's gone. So I paid for a number of pieces of merch to get made, and some of it didn't. Some of it did. Most of it did, luckily. And then most people did get their merch, which was great. Like the Visions and Afterthoughts first print, the Maniac edition, that I paid for in full. And then everyone that got theirs, which apparently everyone got theirs, so that's great. But that money went to SCP and then bankrupt. So it never came to me. So now I'm fine. My goal for money is to never think about money. I just don't want to think about it. I hate it. I like it to use it for things like Red Vox merch or a new guitar every couple of years. But truthfully, I've been saving most of my life, so I'm fine. Tax season's going to suck. Oh, wait, it's tax season. But other than that, I was able to kind of say, all right, I have more important things to worry about. And the band was very helpful and supportive too. And, luckily I had saved enough that it wasn't like the worst thing in the world. So that's the personal hit. Okay. Some bands lost a lot of money. Some artists, some people that were like a part of, just YouTubers or like artists who sell their own merch through there. They were in trouble. So not great. So then fast forward, our merch, the Red Vox stuff, is sitting in a warehouse for a while. And Zach, who's been helping me for years, he's like my go-between. He helps. I send him some music. I send him some art. He gets stuff done. He gets stuff made. He communicates with people. He takes a little bit of money, not even that much. And he's been, for 5 or 6 years, really on top of shit and really supportive. And he got the merch from Chicago. And I was like, wow, okay, so you have all that. There were like pallets full of merch. Some of it not accounted for, by the way. There's some merch that's now on the store that was not previously on SCP's website. So there was stuff that was just randomly like kind of there. But he got that merch and he got it shipped to Philly for Retroware. And I've known these guys for years. They've handled my merch. They've never had any like inclination to do me wrong in any way. And they've sold some of my merch. They've sold some stuff with conventions and stuff. And so I've always had that experience where it's been positive. So that's good. So I figured, all right, well, I live closer to Philadelphia. And instead of trying to find a brand new company with people I don't know, I'm going to get it to Retroware and see if they're interested. They were interested. And they handled it, sorted through thousands of pieces of merch, pizzas. They did some bundles. And so looks like we're back in business. There's some shipping issues because overseas, and especially like Australia, New Zealand, is a nightmare. Sorry about the prices. I've asked them if there's ways. There's some, they tried to get the weight down on some of the records so that it's not as much for shipping. So that sucks. Sorry about that. But other than that, they do handle customer support really well. And considering they're only like, less than 2 hours away, I feel more comfortable with all my stuff there. So that's what's happening right now. And yeah, so I'll link it in chat if you're interested. When it comes to merch, before we do the Q&A, I'll finish up my thoughts here. But thank you for joining, by the way, everyone. Essentially, when it comes to merch, it's optional. Red Vox and music in general these days is free. You can listen to it however you can, and I'm happy. The band is happy. This is a hobby. And so I'm just very happy people want to check it out. Now, optionally, if you want to buy a record, I'm happy with that because that means you get something out of it. And it also means that we get a couple bucks to help pay for more Red Vox stuff. So, yeah, so that's my kind of theory about merch. Some people, if I didn't have a second career, it would be a lot harder and I would have to find other ways. But the truth is, this is just for you. And hopefully, if I make some of the money back from the bankruptcy, great. If not, it's business as usual. So the link is here. It's basically retroware.com/collections/red-vox, or you can use the link tree. I have a new link tree because I forgot to log into the old one. So that's gone. But I made a new one and it's fine. And not the log, I forgot all the info, so that's awesome. But it's linktree/red_vox. So I'll link that too. We're actually getting a new webpage built. I've got a really, really good redvox.com on the way. And that'll link to all kinds of stuff too. So yeah, it's good. There's a lot of good things going on now. I'll tell you about where the band is at currently as well. But first, just so you can see what is on offer, some records, CDs, including some CDs I didn't even know we had anymore, posters, shirts, the flexi. So there's some good stuff. And there's bundles too. So it's like a mystery bundle with a certain amount of items in it. They did this because there's a lot of random shit that was just like, well, we've got 5 of these. So they put it together in a bundle. If you click, you'll see how it works. Look, God, really? That still exists? Why is it in italics? I don't know. I don't know. But I would love to tell you to go to redvox.com for this merch. And I probably could do that maybe right now, actually. Let's see if I can do that while I'm talking. For reprints, right now we're just trying to sell this stuff. We're trying to get a site going that works, trying to figure out how Retroware can, sell all this stuff and have people just know that it exists. So that's where we're at right now. So if you're looking for like a What Could Go Wrong record or a CD of an album you don't have, I understand and I hear you, but it's right now I can't even begin thinking about new merch. Like our hands are completely full. But in the future, I would say you can definitely expect more repressings. You can expect different shirts. Some of the old shirt designs may never come back. Sorry about that. That's kind of how these things work. And especially if like 4 people want one, it's tough to really want to get in there and try to do the design again. And some of the designs got lost with SCP going bankrupt. Some of that shit is just gone forever. Like the assets are completely gone. So yeah, some of them though, as many of you knew, there was some stuff that was not great because they had like a stock asset library that also 21 Pilots used for some stuff, and it was like, Vinny, why does this shirt look like a 21 Pilot shirt? I'm like, oh, you're right, it fucking does. And that was partially because yeah, it was, that was what they were doing. I don't necessarily think it's anyone's specific fault necessarily, but yeah. Hang on a second here. I'm gonna have redvoxband.com redirect to the merch. Let's see if I can do that. I'm doing that live right now. Let's see how good I am at computer. I'll try that. I also got to see if I can get Noodle Pigeon over there as well. Add redirect. Let's see. It might take some time to have those changes show up. Well, right now it goes to the Bandcamp, which isn't that bad of a thing. And on Bandcamp, I could probably link to the merch. Sorry. Thank you for your patience. I promise I'll answer questions, and we can actually talk a little bit. But today's been kind of a busy day with this stuff and trying to get everything up and running. Edit navigation bar. There we go. Yeah, I just want it to be as easy as possible for people, and they don't have to like peruse the bio to get the information they need. You know what I mean? All right. See if this works. Yep. All right. So Bandcamp also has it, and the domain will redirect soon. So redvoxband.com. Anyway, thank you again for continuing to check out Redvox. If you don't buy anything, it's all good. We don't really mind. Just happy that people are interested. However, I will show you one cool thing, which is this is variant number 2. Wow, that looks normal. Why does it do that? Why does it do that? Oh, shit. Okay. Everything's in italics. This is variant number 2 of Visions and Afterthoughts. That's the inner gatefold, by the way. And it's got like a splash of red and a slightly different design from the first time. So I think that came out great. I still haven't seen one of these in person, but I'm really, really hoping to get my hands on one soon. I think these came out really, really well. And yeah, so those are around now too. And hopefully it doesn't say Maniac on the back. I don't know. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Now, chat and Redvox listeners and enjoyers, if such a thing exists, ask me some questions. I'll answer a couple questions. Mr. Vox, what if I didn't get my stuff? Where did you order from? Guess that's the first question. Yeah, where did you order from? SCP? Oh man, I am so sorry to tell you this. That shit's gone. I don't know how you can go about that. Do me a favor, send me an email if you know how to get in touch, and let me know and provide like receipts and stuff, and I'll see if there's anything I can do. There's a chance that shit was just like demolished. But no matter what, we lose money from this whole fucking thing. So I'll do my best for you. Hopefully we can get something to work out, and hopefully the thing that you ordered still exists. So, Mr. Vox, sir, do you know when the next album will roughly premiere? Specifically, what year? Okay, so if you want to talk about future projects and music, I'm gonna try for this year for a new album because we've made good progress. Some of you know this already, but I'll tell you, we have like 28 to 30 songs ish in various states of completion. So the thing about that is whenever a new idea happened, we just recorded it. And some of them are almost completely done. Some need like just drums and mixing, or some need vocals and mixing. And we're not putting out a 28 song album. So we have another album concept solidified. We know generally what songs are going to be on it, except maybe one or two. And the problem is I keep writing new shit that feels right for this thing. And so we're putting in the work to figure out what that is going to look like. So yeah, there's a lot of unreleased stuff that will definitely make it out. And some of those other songs I think are really good. In fact, maybe even better than some of the stuff that's going on the new album. Like, a couple of them. That's just, you know what? That's subjective because people like everything. You know what I mean? Like there's songs that people like that I didn't think people would like as much as they did. So I personally feel like we're putting some songs together that fit the mood and are good, but there's a couple that we're not putting out for this next album that I think are really good, that people are going to love, that I love. But I think that's going to be later down the road. So, so I'm going to try for this year. I think it's possible. Of the, let's say 12 to 15 songs for the new album, I would say, let's say if it's 12, right? It's probably going to be more than that. Of those 12, I'd say 5 are almost completely done. Another 5 are close to being done. And then let's say those remaining 2 need a lot. And then mixing takes a while. Joe is a very precise mixer. He likes to take time. For those that don't know what mixing is, it's just making sure all the instruments fit together. You don't want a muddy mix where there's too much low end or too much high end, like annoying and just kind of wearing out your ears. It's so much more involved than you would think. And I would think even, like, I have so little skill in mixing. And Joe is just very meticulous. He's very precise. He knows exactly what he wants. He could spend 2 hours on just getting a guitar to sound right, which is one of the reasons our music takes a while. That and even though I have the songs and some of them are ready to go, we're only in the studio 3-4 days a week for 4 hours-ish at a time, excuse me. And that means, it's like kind of a part-time thing, as Indiana Jones would say. Part-time. And if we were there, 8 hours for 5 days a week, this stuff might be quicker. We might even have a King Gizzard release schedule. God, no. God, I hope not. But, so I like the idea of an album a year or an album every 2 years. I don't think I would ever want to go the Tool or Radiohead route. However, those are huge, huge bands with legacies and an enormous amount of pressure on them. And big business. For Red Vox, we're still unsigned. We're still just, we do it for fun. And as a result, we take our time. I don't usually force songs. If the inspiration strikes or if something's really interesting, we work on it. And that takes a little time as well. Sometimes I come in with a song and I'm like, guys, I'm really excited about this one. And the reaction's like, yeah, it's all right. Like, they're nice. They're really great. And they'll play the songs that we'll jam on them for like an hour. And then I have that recording of us playing and I'm like, yeah, all right, well, I thought this was a lot better than it was. And then sometimes I bring something in. I'm like, this is a very basic, kind of simple Vinny by numbers kind of song. And then they love it. And then there are times where you just know, like you bring something in and it's like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to show them. And it's like, oh, this is really good. So it just depends. And as a result, though, it takes some time. So to answer your question, I guess that's not me answering a lot of questions. That's me answering one question in a very long-winded way. And I'm happy to talk about this stuff because I'm glad people are interested. But yeah, hopefully the end of this year would be my estimate. But if it slips into 2025 early, don't be surprised. Just to give us wiggle room and no pressure. Because if we feel pressured to put something out, it kind of kills it a little bit. So, have you thought about doing covers of existing songs? For fun. See, that's the thing. I don't find that as fun. If it was a live situation, that would be more fun than us trying to recreate a song. There's songs that we love, all of us in the band. There's stuff that I've covered before. But when it comes to actually recording a song cover, I have not felt the need to do that just yet. The most fun part of the music thing for me is writing and that kind of feeling of a song coalescing and it's a new thing. But I am the sum of my influences, and so many songs inspire me even to this day. And we'll talk about some new music. We'll talk about some old music. But, you know, it's not something I would rather work on a brand new song that I think is really cool than cover a song that people have heard. I don't think we would do as good of a job. In terms of like us as musicians, we don't really play live. You know, some of us have all of us have other careers. So I don't think we're like that amazing that we would do an amazing job with a cover song, in my opinion. Can you make a blood bagel vinyl? I've heard that a bunch. There's a chance in the future, and I'm not going to say no. If there's a way to guarantee that people are going to buy that shit, then sure. The album was made as a little joke. And it turns out, you know, even listening to it now, like some of those songs are cool. I get why people like it. But it's only 5 songs. And putting out a full-ass vinyl for 5 songs is, you know, is that a good idea? I don't know. So maybe. Are music videos unlikely for the next album? We wouldn't do 20. We did 20 for Visions and Afterthoughts, and that was a lot of work. Sphinx, Eagle, Zot, you know, I had a couple people, some really great help. Like, everyone did a great job, but it was a lot of work. It was a lot to micromanage. This is one of the things that's a little tougher about being like kind of independent, and me doing a lot of the heavy lifting in that regard is I like to focus on the music, and then you throw in 20 music videos, even if it's 10 and 10 over a year. You know, it's a lot of work. It's tough, and it kind of burnt me out a little bit on music video stuff. Will there be music videos? Absolutely. There's going to be some, you know, I would imagine maybe something a little more silly, something maybe a little more ambient, you know, a little more low budget. I would expect a couple, at the very least a couple. Any chance of collabs with other musicians? Well, we collabed with Chuck Salamone on our last album, and I collabed with him again on one of his projects. We are kind of insular, and we haven't really been asked. And I don't like reach out. If it happens, it happens. It's possible. I wouldn't say no. I mean, it also, Chuck loves the music I love. We talk about Floyd. We talk about Final Fantasy music. We talk about a lot of the same bands we grew up with. And we have a similar, there's a difference for sure, but Chuck is a really talented musician. We get along personality-wise, too, really, really well. That's the other main thing. You know, how well do you get along with people? You can be the best musicians, but I like to actually have like good conversations, and Chuck is that kind of dude. And we talk about so many things that are just similar experiences. So yeah, I mean, it's possible, and I'm not opposed to it. But you know, If it happens, it happens, and hopefully we meet good people as we continue to make our music. Is Me Oh Well going to get a release on an album? You know what? I almost feel like that's a little bit cheating now. Because if we put out an album and a 3-year-old song is on it, I kind of feel bad about that. You know what I could see? I could see a compilation. I like the song a lot, by the way. I'm a big fan of that song. I could see a compilation of some of our favorites with that song and maybe, a couple unreleased tracks. What about as a single? Wouldn't be worth producing it as such, I don't think. Again, we don't have a large enough audience to guarantee that 500 people are going to buy a single of one song, especially like now when everything's so fucking expensive. And it's just like, even, you know, releasing this much merch at the same time, even though it's old merch, it doesn't feel right on some level because I know people are having a hard time paying for eggs. It's like you're going to buy one song when you could just listen to it online. So maybe would made to order be possible? I don't think that's the case because of the way I could be wrong, but the way the record plants work, first of all, there's more opening now, which is great, but the demand was so high. That's why it took 9 months to produce Visions and Afterthoughts. That shit is just insane how that industry blew up again. I have no idea if made to order works, but I do know this. Most records that there's probably some exceptions, but most companies I've worked with have a minimum of 500. So that's a big cost to eat. And again, it's not like we have a label behind us. A lot of this is coming out of my personal bank account. So, but like I said, I'm okay. I don't want you to think I'm doing this like begrudgingly. Like, no, I like making this merch, but the money from the merch goes back into the band. So it's got to be like smart decisions, and it's funny because you can make every smart decision and then the company goes out of business. So yeah, how about that? Yeah, another light hoodie. I answered that question before. Getting an old design, first of all, a lot of those assets are completely gone after the bankruptcy. That's one. Two is if we end up doing a hoodie and like again, I can only see like 4 or 5, 10 people buying it. That's a tough prospect. We're not big enough of a band to just put out like another light hoodie, and already a bunch of people have it. So that's definitely not something on the mind at the moment. And I hate that these are all business questions. I got to be honest, I really don't like these very much. Happy to talk about them because again, I'm promoting the merch stuff and I'm fine with that. But this is the least exciting aspect of the music process. Like, I'm happy to just put the merch out. People like it. They like it. I like it. But when it comes to like, well, you see the numbers and the cost and the offset, it sucks. And I wish there was someone that could like do that for us. But what I said before was my answer for any of that old merch stuff is a blanket shitty answer. And I'm sorry for this, is assets were lost. Many of them, unfortunately. We got some back. And also demand. And also right now, we're just trying to get this other merch from the warehouse that was already there back to people, like so that people can buy it. And working with a new company, it's an old company, but now they have to sell like, 12 products or so. So we're working on that. That's the focus. Old stuff is not right now the priority. It's always possible in the future. Who knows? But for me personally, like my priority is always new songs, new albums, new merch. I like that better. So, any plans to do another not Red Vox solo album? No, not really. I mean, there's songs that I don't know what to do with right now. And I gave Joe a thumb drive recently. And on the thumb drive are like 20 demos or so of unreleased stuff that isn't being worked on. And some of these songs are really good. They're mixed as best as I could mix them. and it's just me playing bass, guitar, programming drums sometimes, synthesizer, and singing poorly because they're a demo. My problem is this. With that Vine album, the Room to Breathe album, which many of you seem to like, and that is fucking cool. I like that album too. It doesn't sound great. I mixed that myself with my limited knowledge. I got some pointers from Joe. I have no idea how to mix an album. I really don't. That's not my specialty. So I tried, and it is, again, a very meticulous process that I don't fully understand. And if I did a Vine album or a solo thing, I'd probably want to have someone mix it, which is certainly possible. But I also like the way Joe works. And I also think there's Red Vox songs with just me and Joe on them. And Mike was like, that's awesome. Yeah, do your thing. Or Bill was like, I'm busy. Play your keyboard part if you want, my keyboard part if you want, Vin, and have fun. He's cool with that. So, there's Mike is on Visions and Afterthoughts. Mike was on every song. On Realign and Kerosene, Mike was on, he was on most, but not all. So it's one of those things where it's like, what differentiates a solo project from the band? And honestly, it's so razor thin because I end up coming in with like full songs. And that said, though, if there's stuff that the guys aren't fully into and I believe in, I'm like, oh, this is actually really cool, but I think this is probably not going to work for everyone. Those songs, some of those demos, I could see myself doing something with them. And I don't know what, but I would love to, one day release them because I think they're cool. I'm not the best songwriter. I'm not the best singer. I'm not the best anything, but I like it. I when I come up with some of these things, they get stuck in my head for like a week or two. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool thing. And that's, I would like for people to hear that at some point. Vinny, does seeing people interpret Red Vox lyrics feel weird if it gets too speculative of your personal life? It seems like it's at odds with the usual decency of trying not to pry into the creator's life outside of streaming. Well, that's the internet these days, for one. People make assumptions. You've seen it happen with me and others many times. Only I know my own life. I'm the only one that can. And friends know more. And acquaintances know a little less. And that's it. That's really it. And unless people are there, and I've told them these lyrics mean this, it's, what can I do? It's just not the case. The reason I don't explain the songs is because I also apply to this idea of people are going to use those songs for themselves and make those songs their own, the same way I did with a lot of songs I loved. And if you want that song to mean something in your life, or if it does, I feel kind of bad taking that away from you because that's more important. Because, the whole idea of once you release something, it's not really yours anymore. It is still yours as an artist, but the way people interpret and view things, you sometimes don't have a lot of control over that. And I'm not going to go screaming from the rooftops, this means this! This means this! Unless it's a really specific thing I want to, communicate. When it comes to people digging into my life, I mean, that's more of a them problem than me. I'm sorry, that's what you have to do. I hope that you can find ways to enjoy your life more and make meaningful connections. I get people are young, and sometimes that's important. When I was younger, maybe I was curious about my favorite musician or artist's life. But whatever was presented, not the stuff that's not there. Speculation doesn't really do anything for you. And the truth is, in my own life, being aware of that, I just kind of got to the point now where, I've been listening to the Lemon Twigs as a band from New York, from Long Island, and I really, really like their music. They're very 60s Beatle, Beach Boy, 10cc Badfinger, like kind of influenced. I don't need to know anything about these dudes. I'm just happy they're from New York. That's cool. Whatever I get in the songs is good enough for me. and that's it. I'm good with that. But that's also years of listening to music, and I arrived at that point. So yeah, it's a little weird, but it's also kind of culture today too. I mean, there's an artist that is mega huge right now. Maybe some of you have heard of them, and that I think is that artist's appeal seems to be where there's one big thing. I'm throwing hints at everything. Like here's a hint about this part of my life. Here's a hint about this, and I'm communicating with you directly through this song. And that has made them super, super popular and super rich. I mean, aside from the songs being catchy and good promotion, very good advertising, um, that's some people want to do their business that way. I can tell you, I'm most of the time when I'm writing my music, it's not me thinking about how can I put a message here for the audience. Maybe a little here and there, briefly, like as a joke here and there, but truthfully, it's more for me. It's more for what I'm writing a song about. Sometimes I write a song using the words I, me, but it's about someone else. It's a character. I know it's hard for some people to believe, but it's true. And then sometimes people interpret things from songs as like, okay, Vinny wrote this, and here's an event that happened in Vinny's life because I know that from his stream, and therefore it's about that. Well, that's sometimes true, sometimes not. I would say mostly not, because the songs are usually several years old. Some people said, Vinny, Kerosene sounded like it was inspired by Rimworld. I think it was Kerosene. Or one of my albums. And I wrote all the songs before I ever played Rimworld. So that's one. Choking on the Spite was written sometime in like 2019, 2020, for example. And people want to kind of, there's that song, and like they're like, oh, it's about this. It's before that. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's just part of what it is to be a musician. You put yourself out there. It is a vulnerable place to be. I like distance. I like to create a barrier between myself and the audience a bit. That's why you don't see me vlogging about what I eat every day. And I also feel like, even in my private life, I keep barriers up. That's me. That's the sum of my experiences. And so I try to have a little bit of that. And people have been mostly respectful. I got to say, the audience, you guys are great. I fucking love you all, like in terms of how kind you've been about the music. You're not just like, oh, this guy's a funny goblin man who makes the noises on the internet. Like, no, you actually listened. You put the work in to give the music a shot and say, oh, maybe there's more sides to this dude and these dudes as a whole, as a band. That's really fucking nice of you. Not a lot of people would do that. Some people came to the band through Spotify or through, Apple Music, whatever, and they find it and they're like, wait, who's this weirdo? What else does he do on the internet? Oh, he says spin? That's weird. But for the people that actually did put in the effort, I would say it's been 99% very respectful, and I appreciate that. And that's really all I have to say about that. That's a big topic. That's a huge topic. And if I could solve that one, then I would be very prescient, I suppose, because this is a new problem as well that most people are still trying to figure out here on the internet. How do you live that life? How do you give people that side of yourself, but also keep yourself as you and keep a little distance? It's a weird tightrope kind of walk. It's a balance, but I'm glad that I've been able to figure things out little by little, and I still am. So, okay, that's a long answer. Whew. Will you ever make a video of you showing off your guitars? Maybe, maybe not. Would you ever want Red Vox to become your main thing? Depends on what main thing entails in terms of me working. I guess it depends on if I was like forced to do like certain aspects. I don't love the idea of traveling. I don't love the idea of a tour. Yeah, I don't like that idea very much, chat member. But I wouldn't mind being known for Red Vox if that's how people want to view me, but I have to step up to the plate and I have to, really put the work in, and that's fine. But I don't know if I'd want to actually do all the things. It seems like a pretty not soulless, but thankless and tough job to just be on the road constantly. God, that sounds tough. Do you still like your Rickenbacker? For some songs, not all. Any specific bands, artists you've been taking inspiration from lately? Yeah, so like I said before, the Lemon Twigs, they're not anything particularly original, but their songwriting is quite good. So I really like that album, Everything Harmony. New Peter Gabriel, I.O., really good. The Smile released a new album that I really like. Um, let's see. Been listening to Ratatat finally. They're pretty good. Budos band, I listened to some of their stuff. I definitely go back and look for bands that I haven't delved into. And once in a while, I get really, like Tom Petty, I had never really delved into fully. And now I slowly am kind of working through all of his albums. So, to me, that's pretty inspiring. Obviously, that new Queens of the Stone Age album I really love. And yeah, a lot of it is just random one-offs, like a song called Fruit Bats, or sorry, Fruit Bats. There's a song called Jesus Tap Dancing Christ. I don't even know what year that's from, but I just like the song. I mean, it's hard. Even sometimes I'll hear a song from the 70s and I'll be like, oh, that sounds like a new indie rock song. And it turns out indie rock is just, everything. It could sound like something from the 70s and it's acceptable these days. So, yeah, just whatever sounds good, whatever has a strong melody. I'm more of a melody person than rhythm, which is probably not, rhythm is so important in today's musical culture, I feel. And I do like it, and I do like to, I don't really dance, but I like when I'm playing guitar to like get into a rhythm of a song. But melody is still number one for me, and I think melody is very powerful, very important. And so if I hear a song on in a place where I'm at or on a playlist and it has a great melody that hooks me, I can really, that could be big for me. Would you ever make an album in a completely different genre than you're used to? If it inspired me, or if I took acid and walked through the desert for 30 days and I find myself a changed person. No, jokes aside, though, Kevin Parker from Tame Impala, if you listen to Lonerism, it's very like psychedelic, kind of heavier rock in a lot of spots. Not even that heavy, but then the next album is Dance. And I believe what happened is I'm going to get this story wrong, but he gave an interview where he said he was doing some kind of designer drugs and he heard Michael Jackson like being played at like a dance club and he heard it. He was like, whoa. No, you might want to look into that. I think he did Molly or something and he heard a Michael Jackson song and he was like, this is incredible. Like I resisted this, but oh my God. And then he made Currents and now he does that. And look at who is this? Tame Impala, Kevin Parker. If you look into that a little bit, I'm sure the story's a little different, but yeah. So I'm interested. I mean, like I listen to music where they skirt different genres, and I think even if I tried some different stuff, like the new album, I can tell you already, there's a couple songs that don't sound like stuff we've done before. There's stuff that does. And so, you stretch in different ways, but I don't think I would ever want to be as eclectic as Bowie. I don't know if I can be. And I also don't feel like, if I feel like, okay, I have to do this genre so that people will listen because it's a popular genre, I feel like that would take away from what I love about making music, which is come up with a song, right? I'm like, oh, what does this song need? How do I make this into the best song it is possible? Well, in my head, I might hear something sound like Queen, or I might like equate it to um, late era Bowie or something like that. And it's like I let the song dictate what the genre of the song is. It just so happens that my love of music, my inspirations are filtered through a lot of rock. And but within rock, there's a lot of different types of sounds. And that's, people definitely genre bend a little bit in that sense, and I like that. So maybe. Would you ever do a full-on concept album? If I had a good concept, we always kind of get close to a full concept, but we just kind of do a minimal concept. Were the parallels between Stranded and Saturnine lyrics and themes intentional or accidental? accidental at first and then a little more intentional. But you know what inspired me? I'll tell you a little secret. Dune. Yeah. Dune was an inspiration for that song. Lyrically, it's not necessarily fully about Dune or anything like that, but I pictured there was like a in my mind. Hey, all right, I'll give you another little piece of information. The word Saturnine, I was reading Dune and I came across that word and I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting word. What does it mean?" And I was like, "Oh, that's the name of that song now." So yeah. And that was also the song came from I that was the first song I wrote on my 12 string. I bought a Dan Electro 12 string electric guitar. Um, it arrived. I was playing it, just playing some stuff, and that was the first. Like, there's some little ideas, but that was the first full song I got from it. Would you ever consider doing heavier metally songs? That is the same question, the same answer as the genre stuff. We actually do have some heavier songs, but I'm not a metalhead. I don't love a ton of metal. I like some, and I can get into it, but if I'm gonna really get, write a metal song, I have to be inspired. Blood Bagel's as close as we probably will get, so hope that's okay. You think you guys will ever do another behind the scenes video? Be nice. I hope so. Maybe one day. We'd have to like probably hire someone and not just have one of us do it. How do you feel about people interpreting songs to be about your streaming career? I am the sum of my experiences, and there will definitely be some of that in there, but it's never overt, and I don't specifically like to go into that because there's life experiences that you can use as inspiration and talk about in a couple of different ways, but nothing ever as specific as this song is the streaming song. It's not that, and I don't really want to do that. Would you ever be open to doing a purely vocal feature on another artist's song outside of rock? Well, I did some stuff with Chuck Salamone. I sang, and if asked, and I was, if people liked my vocals enough to want me to be a part of their song, and if I liked their song, I might agree to it. Would you ever consider Joel as a feature on a future project? So we have very, very different musical styles. I love Joel. He's a good friend. And I do think people tend to put me together with other people that I have had in my sphere of like circle, a friend group. And because there's music being made that, we're both streamers, we both make music. So Vinny and Joel should collab. We have played a little music together for sure, but it's completely different genres. And is there a chance? I would never say zero chance if the right song, was available. I respect Joel. I respect his music. He does things on the guitar and vocally that I can't do. So I don't think it would be something I would want to do, but it's possible. Has Joe done backing? Has Joe done backing vocals before on Red Vox? He has. Roid Rage, in particular, on Blood Bagel, and a couple background harmonies. He's got a pretty big backing vocal feature where you can clearly hear him on an upcoming song, and it sounds really good. How do album arts come about? I usually get a little bit of inspiration. Maybe the band and I talk about it. Maybe it's something like I have an idea for what a thing might look like, and then talk to an artist and try to figure it out. Sometimes it's an accident. The Realign cover before the clown show of AI and the AI Inquisition, and also, the the uh, current state of AI being very depressing. I just saw a tiny little, like I was doing some fucking program. It combined like a jellyfish with a water and like a city. And this is a story people know already, but it was a tiny little shitty crusty image of this thing that was like inspiring. I was like literally live on the stream. I was like, hey, this is kind of neat. I'm going to save this. Maybe one day I'll use it. And Realign started getting this weirdly, I don't know, it almost sounded somewhat futuristic in a couple spots, maybe because of the synthesizers. And I said, I kind of like that image as a picture for the album cover, and also makes a good story. However, I don't want to use this. So I hired a Moral Crow, very, very talented artist, and he just redid the whole thing. And he used his own inspiration. He took what he saw there and he turned it into an actual piece of art. And he took like very vague, blurry things and fleshed them out into his own interpretation. And we worked back and forth. We talked about some stuff and he got it and it was amazing. So that was complete, like, kind of luck, and also, again, a weird story. And also, I feel like the AI thing, like that idea of like a future being kind of like, it weirdly fits because the album theme in my mind, whatever that may be, fits the album art like kind of perfectly in a weird, strange way. And like that idea of the Reaper keeping you from that thing in the future, like that nice in the distance, you see this like kind of pristine city, or like, it's glowing, but first you got to walk a very, very long path, and also there's a fucking Reaper in front of it. I think it's interesting, and that also turned into inspiration. It inspired me in turn, so that was a pretty cool fucking thing. But that's just my interpretation. I mean, there was no thought of mine put into that specific thing until it started taking shape. I do have a concept for the next album cover. I don't know if it's perfect, but I was actually at some point going to ask, like, does anyone do like semi photorealistic 3D environments? Because I do have an idea for a cool cover. That's one thing that I'm kind of considering, one avenue. I have a couple potential options for this cover for the next album, but I do have one that might require a 3D artist, even like in Unreal Engine or something. So that's like kind of, that idea, without going into specifics, came about because my buddy Tyler and I were talking about the cover and we're talking about the album, and it was just a conversation. And I thought, oh, this is my idea. He's like, well, I have another idea you can add to that. And sometimes that happens with me and Joe. Sometimes that happens, like the fucking Visions and Afterthoughts cover that was flipped. That's just a photograph of something. And I just turned it black and white because I felt like it would be cool to have a black and white kind of contrasting. One's more black with white, and then one's more white with black. And then that culminates into one double album. I still don't feel like we ever fully got the Visions and Afterthoughts covers. I feel like they were a little bland. The new one for the actual vinyl is pretty cool. I like it a little bit. I think it kind of fits, and I like the black and white and red theme. But I will be honest with you, that one was tough, and I don't feel like we kind of got it. So I tried. But I do think there's the opposite of that, which was Kerosene, which ended up accidentally perfect. And it was just me taking a picture of a tea lamp from the side and from above, and then putting it in Photoshop and just fucking with it for like a couple hours. And I was like, oh. The VA vinyls are pretty. You did a good job on that. Well, thank you. I'm trying my best. How do you feel about you and Mike overshadowing Bill and Joe? I feel like they should get more recognition. The singer, sadly, always gets the recognition. Mike streams, so he gets the recognition. Joe's more low-key. Joe and Bill are family men. They're low-key. Bill is on an album when he can be. I would say Joe is very, very instrumental to the Red Vox sound. A lot of times it is me and him in a room figuring shit out, him guiding the production a little bit, us talking about stuff. We almost never like clash, but we do sometimes have differences of opinion, and then we work through them. But yeah, a good chunk of Red Vox's appeal and sound, the Joe is more than the secret weapon. It would be nice for him to get more recognition, but when it comes to the songwriting, it is like 90% me. And then when we work on stuff together, the guys contribute a little bit. They throw ideas, maybe a chorus idea. So I get why people feel that way. When I was younger, Nirvana for me was Kurt Cobain, because that's the voice, that's his lyrics, that's his heart and soul that he puts into those songs. It doesn't mean, I mean, now people rightly recognize Dave Grohl as an extremely talented musician and drummer. Or you have a band like, you know, Pink Floyd, where no one knows who the fuck anyone is in that band or didn't. But then you have other bands like Queen, where each member wrote songs, each member kind of contributed pretty visibly and vocally too. So it just depends on the band. And also, music is kind of different these days. And like I said, if me and Mike didn't have our streaming careers and it was just music, it could be possibly viewed a little differently. But I would love for Joe to get more credit as well. And Bill's such a fucking great keyboardist, and he's one of my best friends. And let me tell you something. I've known him for 20 years more, and he was one of the first people I ever played live with. He taught me a lot. He, you know, was working with me when I barely knew how to play the instrument, which is still today, by the way. And he's very, very similar in taste of music with me. And he also, like I said, he can't always come in, and sometimes I do end up playing the keyboard parts. But when he does, he kills it. And some of the new stuff that we have from him for some of the new songs is great. He can just hear a song twice and then improvise, and we keep most of it. So yeah. And now Gerald is helping us out. He's doing stuff. You've heard his covers. He does video game covers. He's an amazing drummer, amazing bassist, great at pretty much everything. He's even playing a little flute on one of the new songs. And even though he's not fully a member of the band, because he does shows with a lot of bands, he's busy with his own stuff, but he, you know, he's there. We practice with him. He'll come in once in a while and throw down some instruments. So even though I am the guy bringing the songs in, I am the driving force of the band, and I definitely want this to work. I want us to have a band as we approach our 40s because it's fun and because I love it, and I'm happy that the guys like the music as much as they do, and I put the work in to make sure this is happening. And you know, I write also like 90 to 95% of the lyrics. So I don't mind. I appreciate it. My ego is satiated enough because I do so much of this stuff. But yes, so each person has their own specialization in the band. Each person does good shit. Obviously, Mike comes in with ideas too. Sometimes he helps with some lyrics. Sometimes he helps with like, obviously he's coming up with his drum parts, and he's very collaborative. So we might ask him to do a little bit more or a little less, and he's down for that, which is very, very important in a musician. And then other times Mike might say, well, what about this part being delayed? You know, what if you wait a minute before you do that? So everyone, if it's a good idea, it's a good idea, period. But however, when it comes to good ideas, how do you know it's a good idea? And I think part of it is personal taste. There's no objectively right answer with music. It's just if it feels right and you have a certain style of musical taste and it feels right to you and the idea sounds good, it sounds good. I kind of happen to think, though, sometimes, so for example, you write a song and then the idea of like a chorus coming in too late, you can kind of tell when it's less powerful a certain way or when it just feels a little off. I don't know if that's just the sum of my musical experiences, but there's sometimes where it's like, oh, well, if we delayed this, if you didn't play drums for a second, if you played this bass thing here, it would just sound more powerful, or it would sound more like it transitions well into the chorus. So there's some musical rules that you are aware of. I mean, then there's also music theory. So if you're playing shit that doesn't go together, that's a completely different story. So there is kind of a right and wrong, but there is Metal Machine music by Lou Reed. So in some ways, there's kind of no wrong answer because some people break those rules on purpose to have a desired effect. So anyway. Are you saying that penis music is valid from a certain point of view? Yeah. Will there be Visions and Afterthoughts B-sides? So that includes some of those songs I mentioned earlier. There's still like 7 Visions and Afterthoughts B-sides, so to speak, that are really cool, that I love, that are not that are not on the next record. I would guarantee you're going to hear those songs, whether they appear on some kind of compilation record, whether they're individually released, whether they're part of another album. I don't know. But I like them a lot. They just didn't fit the mood of the albums. Possibility of a live performance. We're working on it. We're trying. I don't want to say too much without, and I don't mean to play coy. Don't expect like a live tour. Don't expect like a full tour if we do shows. I've talked about this before, but it turns out playing music together with your friends is really fucking cool and fun. And it's a little weird to start doing shows in your late 30s for one. Not really that weird, but and then trying to find gigs. Where do you even play? There's nowhere to play on Staten Island, basically. So we would have to find places in Brooklyn, Manhattan, maybe conventions. So I would like to tell you all, and again, the reason I don't give definitive answers and say, yes, we're doing this, is because if it doesn't happen, I don't want to disappoint people. And people do get somewhat disappointed. I've seen it. So my answer is this. We're trying. We're playing some songs together. We're enjoying playing together. And we have made it a little bit of a goal to work towards some shows once in a while. And we'll keep you posted. If it happens, you'll know about it. And hopefully you'll have a good time if we do a show, because I think we will. The best part is you're enjoying it together. We actually do really like playing together. We have a good time. Vinny, I was listening to your old stuff, and I really enjoyed your song Dreaming Again from your first ever album. Do you ever listen back to your old stuff to gain inspiration from it? I like that song a lot. Yeah, once in a while. Someone on one of my streams included something that included one of my old songs. It had the song Abstract Entity. I don't know why I named it that, but it's cool, I guess. And me hearing it and being jump scared by it live on a stream is one thing, but I was listening to it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. There's no mixing on it. I mean, minimal. It's like, it's such a, if you brought it to an engineer, they'd be like, what is this? Like, why isn't it, why don't you follow the rules and mix the song properly? That said, though, the music on it is pretty good. There's some stuff that I won't listen to because it reminds me of a hard time. A lot of Kerosene is like that. But, yeah, once in a while I go back and listen. And I'm very happy to do so if it's, not like on a stream. So there's that. And I think also seeing the progress is good. And I'm happy to say that I feel like I'm better now in a lot of ways. But I tried not to become too up my own ass about it. Like, I think acknowledging that you know more about your instrument and that, you're happy with your progress is good. But also when you've written, we have 5 albums plus some EPs and stuff. I try not to repeat myself too much, and I kind of do by accident a little bit. So you also, sometimes I'll write a song, I'm like, oh, that sounds like Reeling from the Rafters or something. So there's also that aspect that is good to be aware of. I will say, here's an interesting thing I'll tell you about now. There is a song that I found. I was going through hard drives, looking through some old stuff to see if I could throw like all of it together just to have it archived. And I found an idea from nearly 20 years ago. And it was like a complete demo. Well, I say complete, it was just guitar. But it was a verse, chorus, break, bridge. And I was like, oh, this is actually kind of good. And it was like a year and a half into me writing songs. And I was very like impressed by the chord changes. I thought it was like, okay, this is kind of, and there's something kind of pure about it too, because it wasn't, it's just someone who had been playing guitar for like a year and a half, and here's their idea of what a song could be. So I showed the band and I was like, hey, check this out. What do you guys think of this? Like, maybe it's embarrassing. And they liked it. They actually liked it. But, you know, at that point, you have to also then modify it because it was too long and there's some fluff that didn't need to be there. So we've been tossing it around. Once in a while, we play it, we work on it. And I came up with a new vocal melody because there was no vocal melody. So I'm actually writing a song with myself currently. And it's kind of fucking weird, but it's cool. And I would say I don't know where that song is going to show up, if it ever will, but it's good to go through your old shit once in a while. I'll give you one more example. Settle for Less from Another Light. I was going through old cassette tapes. Yes, cassettes. I had a tape recorder for years, and I used it for like 14 years, buying new tapes. Well, actually, probably less than 14 years, but buying new tapes, putting them in, and recording and just filling up tapes. I have a shoebox of like 30 tapes of just ideas. So I was digitizing some of this stuff. I wouldn't want most of it to see the light of day because it's pretty it's pretty rough, but once in a while you find something, and that opening riff to Settle for Less, no lyrics, no vocal melody, but the verse and the opening riff and the chorus were from a tape from like 4 years earlier. And I showed Joe, who really liked it, and then he put his own twist on it, and then I wrote lyrics, etc., and it became Settle for Less. So sometimes it's worth going through old shit, and you never know. You might be able to do something new with it. Would you make a long song like Stranded in the future? Maybe it could happen. I don't want to sit down and be like, okay, how do I fill another 5 minutes of time, and then the song will be Stranded too. It has to be right. And Stranded was kind of an accident in that sense. It wasn't, we weren't trying to make a long song. It just kind of, the parts worked and it felt like it was developing. And instead of us cutting it, we just left it long. And we said, let's indulge in this one. And it was the right song for it. So I guess we could sit down and say, guys, let's make another 10-minute song. But I feel like if without that spark of inspiration, A, it's not as fun to work on it. It would feel like work. And B, that's just how I operate. Some people are professional, consummate musicians. They could literally sit down and write a 10-minute song. Like, I'm not John Williams. I'm not Uematsu. I'm not any of these like amazing composers who, you know, for me, it's like, oh, I was playing guitar. I came up with this cool thing and then another cool thing. And then that turned into this. And then, oh, wait, 9 minutes later, it's Stranded. So yeah, it's not our proclivity. It's possible, but it has to be right. We do have a couple things that we're working on now that are like over 5 minutes. Have any companies tried to reach out for you to use Red Vox's music for branding? Yep. And that's something that's still, you know, once in a blue moon. Mostly it's just fans that reach out where they're like, "Hey Vin, can we cover the song, or can I you know, can I do this in my school project or my short film?" I just say, yeah, go for it. But yeah, we've had a couple of offers. Some of them not so great. One not too bad. And I do think that sadly, it's really hard to get your music out there. I told you I'm not looking to be a giant famous band, and rock isn't big enough to even have that happen, in my opinion, right now. But if I could get the music out to people that I know would like it, that are missing this kind of music, that are looking for this kind of music, because I know there are people that are looking for it, because I am. And so I'm making it, and I love it, and I'm happy to do it. But I also, I still look for this kind of music that sounds like this, because this is what I like. And if there are people that don't even know how to hear it, and there's an opportunity for us that makes sense, that's not us selling a can of baked beans, that, you know, ends up as a way for people to check out the music, that is, I would consider that more than baked beans commercial. And I would consider that more than big record label that wants us to do all the following, sign the document, you know. But you know, again, not looking to be. I've said this on a stream previously. It would be nice to be able to pay the band. You know, there's so much of what we do that people kind of assume we operate the same way as other bands. There's no real money coming in that I can just give the guys money. I pay Joe for the studio time, and I'm generous as much as I can be. And the merch pays for for itself, which is good. It would be nice in the future if this band could like sustain all of the members, but that's just it's a hobby for them and even me, you know. But that's also the beauty of having two careers. I'm a very lucky motherfucker that I get to do this because I before I streamed, I was in a band for a couple years with Mike. Some of you know the name Gravy's Day, and that went absolutely nowhere because that in 2008-9 the music industry was changing very very rapidly. We probably weren't even good enough. We sounded like an old 90s slash classic rock band, so there was no future. But it was fun. We tried doing some stuff, but again, the amount of work you put into it versus then having to go work a job in Jersey City for 40 hours a week. How much time do you have for a band? You're you know, like I was so tired. I would work, I would commute an hour and 15 minutes and I just wouldn't have time for it. It was, you know, took so much energy and life out of me. So what we ended up doing was we didn't play for 5 years. I there was a time where I barely played music for 5 years. And then when Red Vox happened, when, you know, me and Mike were like, maybe we should do this again. In like 2015, the floodgates opened and they haven't closed. You know, I'm still enjoying writing. I'm still coming up with stuff that it interests me, and it's worked out. You know, so what are your thoughts on more artsy avant-garde music such as noise? I like melody. I like nice sounds. Noise could be useful as a texture in a song to create a mood, but if I were to do a full album like that, it wouldn't be to my liking. Vinny, considering Far Away is one of the best Red Vox songs in my opinion, have you considered there's probably a cool album just 5 milligrams away? Ha 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 ha! I get you. I like that chat member. That's really funny. Just 5 milligrams away. Yep. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know though. I in my older age especially, I've never really been much of a I don't indulge very much in the forbidden fruits of the drug. So for me, I don't know if I'd want to do that unless I'm in the very best headspace for it. That was there's a story there that I told previously, but it was I was having a very hard time in my life and a friend recommended microdosing and I tried it like 3 times and I didn't really notice very much except the one time I did it before bed and then Far Away happened. So for those that are going to be like, what must I do? I'm worried. Are you okay, Vinny? You know, I'm fine. It's something that people do to help with certain moods. I'm fine. You know, in this case, I know I've seen people before very heavily critical of that stuff. Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I tried and I wasn't into, and I got a great song out of it and a good story. But I don't think I would want to do that again. If I needed a little bit of inspiration, you know, the devil's lettuce is now legal in the state of New York. And while it makes me very anxious, I don't particularly like it the same way I used to 20 years ago. And it's a very, very rare occasion. It could, you know, there's the potential. There is the potential for that at the very least. But it's not something that I would want to, it's not an everyday thing. So, you know, I hope that answers your question. Traveling is very good for inspiration. I don't disagree with that. Are there any songs that have themes you see commonly misinterpreted? Like heavy misinterpretation? Oh, yeah. There's a couple. I don't want to say what they are because the problem is, like I said earlier, it's, you know, it's personal to you. I could do what Alex Turner did, which is I could just explain every song. He did that for Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino. And the truth is, I don't think I have I don't think I have the desire to do that. But yes, I've seen songs heavily misinterpreted. Some about me, some about people's connection to their own self, what they think the song is about. And I wrote it from a completely different perspective. True story, though, some songs, I don't even know what they mean, really. There's a couple, maybe one or two per album, where the words sound good together, the syllables work, the rhyme scheme. Like sometimes I go for a walk and I just get sentences, I get lines. You know, like I think about the song, I hear the melody, and I just kind of mumble to myself, and I'm like, oh, that sounds like that sentence. What does that mean? That's kind of interesting. And I can kind of make my own meaning, but the sentences, the lyrics are too interesting for me to get rid of. And so I might only have an interpretation of my own fucking song. And I think that's kind of cool, actually. And I've heard other artists have that same thing. If you could become a virtuoso on any instrument, what would you pick? Guitar, because I like playing it, and because I'm already playing it, and I think it would be better to be better at it. Someone said, I think people need to remember songs can be fiction too. Yeah, I mean, listen, jokes. Okay, no, I was gonna say jokes aside, but vomit in the ball pit. I did witness someone vomit in the ball pit. Like I didn't witness the vomiting, but there was vomit already in there, and I did not go into the ball pit. The rest of the song about the hemorrhoids and the clowns and the the seeing the vomit was enough to like ruin me for life. No. No, no, no. That was, I mean, I know it's a joke album, but yeah, it's silly. It's supposed to be fun. I'll answer a couple more because I unlike when I play the video games, I can let the games do the talking for a while. But doing this Q&A thing and just constantly speaking for this long is a lot. It's like double. So would you ever stream a game with the whole band? Very difficult to do so, and some of the guys aren't that interested in the music. In the gaming. So probably not. What's the best way to come up with good chord progressions when writing? Dream of them? No, I mean, yeah, you kind of, for me, it's been dreams have been very interesting to help with that. And then in other cases, I'm just playing guitar and you start with a couple chords and maybe you start singing or just humming like a melody. And then you let the melody dictate where the next chord should go. Easier said than done, but I found that that has worked a number of times. I think there's a weird balance between too complex and too simple. There's nothing wrong with too simple because a lot of pop music is the same like progressions and it's a very, very homogenous kind of music world in a lot of ways. And that's fine because it works, it's powerful. And then there's this other school of thought of like going way too complex because otherwise maybe you'll get judged for your songwriting. That's my thought. I could be wrong on that one, but I do feel like complex is good, but clever is better. Like I like writing simply, and I've learned even recently, like simple is good. But within that structure, you can do things to turn things on their head a little bit, like an inversion. You can throw a seventh in the right spot. You can, toy around with going between major and minor chords. And, there's that, but also feel is more important. I mean, yeah, you can come to the table with as much music theory as you want, but you have to interpret it through your emotional context. And if you can do that and you can find that spot in the music where you can pull some feeling out of it, others will feel that as well. If you're clinically constructing a great chord sequence, it'll sound great. And it might even be a really good like soundtrack. You might even be able to like submit that for like a game soundtrack, and it would probably be like super, super revered. And people could still feel something from it. But it just depends on you as a writer. What I do is I try to pull the emotional context out of the chords, and if I can, and I enjoy that, and it's good therapy for me. I don't just do this for the attention. I do, but I also do it because If I'm having a hard day, I can sit down and play guitar, and it's very helpful. And so some of the reason that the music sounds in some songs more dour or a little depressing at times is because I do end up writing a lot of my good shit when life is a little tough, and I write and I play. So that's to me, it's a little easier to even just pull that emotion out of the instrument and come up with something that resonates with me if I'm feeling that deeply. I'm never really like I'm happy. You see me laugh, like you see me. I'm a pretty even keeled person overall, but if I'm that happy, I'm usually not gonna try to write like the happiest song in the world. I think like I mean, if you're happy and you know what, clap your hands already exists. That's I don't want to do stuff like that. And if something sounds more major key, which we got some major key songs that are more positive sounding, once in a while I like to throw in like a weird lyric or maybe a minor chord just to balance it out a little bit. I find that type of music to be more interesting personally. And then to finally answer your question, there is no fully right answer. It's just what you like through your interpretation of your, like I said before, emotional context and the music that you enjoy. And that's how that's, yeah, I'm rambling quite a bit, but I guess that's why you're here, right? So a couple more questions. Are there times you consider doing funny voices in a song? I'll tell you what. Maybe once in a very, very blue moon. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. But not really. Mostly no. How would you react if Weird Al contacted you about making a Red Vox parody song? I would be so honored. It would be beautiful. I look up to that dude as an artist and as a comedy man and as a musician. That would be incredible. Are Temple and Choking on the Spite lyrics connected to something? I was listening to the album days ago. No, not specifically that I'm aware of. Have any of the other members of the band tried doing vocals? I mentioned that earlier. Joe has got a vocal thing coming up. He was a singer in his own band, and he and I share vocals on a song that's coming out that I think he did a great job. And he's done background vocals. Gerald is even on a couple songs now, background vocals, just kind of like to add to the ahs or the harmonies in the background. Have you ever written a song and be like, this sounds too much like this other band song? A lot, because everything's been done. And the thing is, even if I've heard thousands of songs, that's only 0.1% of the world's music. There are a lot of different ways to do music, but there's still, you know, the scale of notes that you can use. And it's undoubtedly going to happen. It's happened. There's some Red Vox songs that are out right now that people are like, oh, this sound like Come As You Are by Nirvana. You know, it's almost unavoidable. And I found that unless it's blatant, you're still going to sound somewhat unique. You have to be more aware of like, don't totally scrap a good idea if it's like somewhere in the region. If it's like blatant, yes, maybe don't do it. But if it's in the ballpark and it's still a good song, sure. I mean, again, I hate to, it's not that I'm ragging on a lot of modern music because this has been the case forever. But listen to some of the stuff that's like, you know, if I walk into a store and I hear stuff on the speakers and I'm like, oh, I think I've heard that. Oh, wait, it's a new song. It happens with rock. It happens with every genre. But in popular music, the reason it's called pop, the reason it works so well is because there are songwriters, there are people that are devoted to songwriting that know that if you do the 1-5-4 or whatever progression and you use these chords and you sing this way and then you do this thing with the synthesizer and then you have the drum stop for a second, they know that those songs are designed to evoke an emotion in people. And so there are farms of people that make those types of songs and give them and sell them to these big stars. This is a thing that happens. And that's why you see like Beyonce, as an example. There's that one famous example of her having, like 16 songwriters, and the only lyric is, you know, we rule the world or something. It was like, it's almost like it was a joke, it was a meme. I don't know how true it is, but yeah. So there is a way to provoke an emotion, and a lot of that sounds kind of similar, but it's also with melody in particular, you can do so much because it's not just about the notes, it's about the space between the notes, it's about how long you sing a note, it's about how you get to the note. So there's, I would say, infinite musical possibilities still available. However, some are known to work very well and therefore are copied and used to great effect to make a lot of money, in my opinion. Most memorable song lyric you ever wrote? Love such an ugly 5-letter word. Will there be releases of older albums on vinyl? Like I said, not in the works right now, but eventually, hopefully. If you did a live show, do you fear crazy Babby fans ruining it? I'm sure our band of near 40-year-old men playing an outdated form of music is going to have less Babby fans than a pop star or someone who's like on the cutting edge and really appealing to them teens. So I have a feeling maybe we would be a little bit better off in that regard. I would say this: if someone's being Babby fan, you would hope that you could just play the music loud enough to drown them out. That's what's great about rock music. You could just hit the distortion on your guitar pedal and you don't hear them anymore. Will you ever release stems for your music? We don't have a lot of them. We have some, I think, but like I said, the work and going through that stuff and finding them would take away from us working on new shit. So, as usual, never say never, but for the moment, not in the not in the works. I answered the cover question earlier. Sorry, chat member. Unless it's the 4-letter kind is a good and sad line. One of my favorites. Also one of my favorites. Someone said earlier, the why did I use German in Almost a Stranger? I don't know, felt right. The song also kind of reminded me of the Berlin trilogy from Bowie a little bit, so I leaned into it. I was a little weird about singing that line, but I was later glad I did it. Pale Blue Dot is one of my favorite songs. Any future song's going to have similar sound? Actually, I would say a couple songs from that upcoming, not necessarily the next album, possibly the next album, but that big collection of songs that I mentioned, there's a couple that are in that same feel, I think. And let's see. Vinny, I have a question. Why is the drummer so cool and hot? From Jabrony Mike. Jabrony Mike? The drummer in Red Vox is so cute and very handsome, and he hits them drums so hard. And sometimes he even has to walk through knife fights to get to the studio. That didn't happen, but there was a weird story at one point. But he's fine. It's all good. Now, some weirdo with a knife was like, apparently walking around. So that doesn't answer the question, Jabrony. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the answer. You caught me just as I was about to end the stream. I'll answer one more question, and then I'm going to mention the band merch, and then I'm out. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate this. This is cool. LCD sound system and the Strokes. I only know a little bit, but I think they're pretty cool. New music releases you're looking forward to? I don't know. Any chance of more acoustic stuff? Yes, we have several acoustic. The acoustic guitar has been used a lot over the past several years, and some of those songs you haven't heard yet. And do you have any songs you wrote that make you cry? Not that I can think of right this moment. Another joke album. No, because you might hear in the future something a little more silly. For a full album, I don't think so. Keep in mind, for Blood Bagel, we had some of those songs for a couple years. It's I don't necessarily want to make. I mentioned this in some ways, but I'm not looking to do comedy music, like novelty comedy music. Once in a while, if inspiration strikes, and maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. But I will tell you, full album is different. But once in a while, like a Trolls and Goblins type thing, or something that's a little more silly, yeah, sure. And I think that's about it. Why is insert song here such a crappy song? She missed the beat. It's crappy to some people, but weirdly, there are people who like that song a lot and have actually told me in person they liked it. I will tell you, it is my least favorite song on What Could Go Wrong, and I have some songs that I look back on, I'm like, Eesh. But that one it's okay. I liked it because it was weird, and I thought it would be cool to do something just completely off kilter. But yeah, I mean, it turns out even the weirdest, quote unquote, crappiest music people can still get into. See what I mean? There's chat members that like it. I think that's it. You're allowed to not like music from a band you like, I think. And not that I need to know about it necessarily. In fact, I don't most of the time. But I'm happy if people choose their favorites, and I have my favorites. There's albums I love where there's a song or two I just don't listen to or I skip. So I just don't have a direct line with David Gilmour. I can't be like, hey David, listen, why is that song you made real crappy? I think he's a little busier than that. So, all right, once again, chat, this has been a lot of fun. I've been trying to do this for a while because people have asked me a lot of Red Vox questions live, and I figured this is a 2-for-1. I could tell you about the merch, and I could answer some questions, and I could get my ego fully satiated. And I can also give you some tidbits about the next releases, which is to say, nothing concrete, and we're just happy to continue working. And I know the songs are good and the performances are good, and I can tell you that you will enjoy. If you like our previous shit, there's some stuff on the new album that is very much in your wheelhouse. You're going to love it. And there's even a couple things that are unlike anything we've done before. So really excited. In my mind, the next one's always the best one, and this one is the best one by that logic. So very, very excited to get this thing finished. And almost all of the lyrics are done. Me and Mike worked on a couple lyrics together. Me and Joe have been putting together some songs. And it's like all coalescing finally. An album, sometimes you need like time to let it be what it is. And then once it's happened every time. Every time we've done an album, I have one idea of what it is in my head. And then as songs are added to it and new songs are written, the album kind of dictates what it is for you. I know that sounds very fucking weird and almost a little highfalutin or whatever you want to call it, but it's kind of weirdly true. So, whatever this album is going to become, it's so far real cool for me. And I can't wait for you to hear it, but please be patient. Maybe give me another, I don't know, let's say give me a year. And if it's before that, then great. And once again, for anyone who's been waiting for the merch, thank you for your patience through this odyssey, because everything we went through with SCP was a nightmare, and I was actually worried we would never see that old merch again. There was a chance that that stuff was going to be liquidated to pay for some of the bankruptcy. And it turns out they deemed it not property of SCP, and that's how we were able to get it. So crazy shit. But yeah, it is available once again. You can check the Red Vox pages and you'll find the link to the merch if you want it. If you don't want it and you just want to listen on Spotify or YouTube, that's fine. I'm very happy you're listening, and you mean that means the world to me, really. I mean, listen, anyone who's enjoyed our music, I know it's a big group now. Like, it's not like a ton of people, but it's a lot. I can't thank you enough. This isn't false modesty. You're the reason why we continue to make this music. You're the reason why we all continue to go to the studio, because if people weren't really listening, we would probably still make some music. But because so many people are passionate about this music, it's like, oh, I can't wait to go to the studio. Like, I was just there yesterday. I sang a new song. It's actually an old song, but I sang it finally, and it's good. And I'm already like, oh man, I can't wait to go back. So that's because of you. And if you do end up buying a CD or a vinyl, that helps make more CDs and records. So, and also thanks, Mike, because he's in chat. Some guy named Jabrany. Thanks for putting the effort into, I come in with a song and Mike is like, this is cool. I'm going to play drums on it. That's, and then like that motivation too. Like if I bring it in and the guys don't like it and they don't put their all into it, what the fuck am I doing? So I can't thank you enough for playing my songs and for, actually making this possible. So yeah, I'm a very, very lucky person. So yeah, that's it. redvoxband.com if you want. Otherwise, I'll see you later. Expect this channel to be live again when there's new music. So goodbye, everyone, and thank you. And I hope you all have a great evening, day, or whatever. Nah. Well, now you know one of the songs starts with a D chord. All right, goodbye.